Well, I drove as high as I could drive on this hill. That's a fair ways up. Not a bad view. That's the ocean behind me. If you keep following the ocean out that way, it's a steep canal, right? If you keep following that ocean out that way is where, that's where all those videos on the boat come from. That's where my boat is out in Banfield. To keep going that way about another, I don't know, how many more miles, 20 miles or something. You probably get there. But anyway, let's get into some more of these shares. The voices are freaking getting heard one after the other. It's amazing. It never ceases to, well, I'm not that amazed anymore, but at first I was, and I could see the volume of the people emailing was getting a little freaking crazy, man. It's like, holy cow, really? This many people? But I guess it makes sense. But anyway. Poor camera, I got the lens scratched up. You can see that blemish right about here on me. That's a scratch in the lens. I'm gonna buy another camera now. I think it's my 4th one of that flavor. Just the nature of the beast goes the way it is. Hard on the equipment, but it's hard outside here, right? Climbing mountains and fishing and hiking and hunting. Alright. What do we got? Did Mom scare off a grizzly or a Sasquatch? This ought to be good. Dear Steve, I'm hoping you and the viewers will give their opinion. Back in the late 70s, I lived in the very tiny town of Shawnee, Wyoming. One summer night, we were sitting around the kitchen table and heard something making noise in our garbage incinerator behind the house. Then we smelled something awful. Mom got up and went out to look over the 4-foot-tall fence to see what was out there. She started yelling our neighbor's dog's name, yelling to get out of there, go home. She came back in and said she couldn't see anything, but it must have been the neighbor's dog trying to get into the garbage. And he must have rolled in something awful because it stinks like crazy out there. The noise started back up, so she grabbed a frying pan and a metal spoon, then went back banging it loudly and yelling for the dog to go home. Whatever it was, it seemed to go away. The next morning, my dad went out there and called for me to come look. Whatever it was had thrown the wire grate off the incinerator and knocked off a few cinder blocks that weren't cemented in place very well. And there were several gigantic footprints there. My dad said it must have been a bear, and a big one. They called DNR and they called back later saying there was a rogue grizzly bear passing through. Yellowstone is over 400 miles away. What do you think? Would a grizzly bear travel 400 miles from home? Would they be scared off by a woman yelling? I never thought of a Sasquatch at the time, but that actually makes more sense to me. I do recall hearing reports of a hairy human spotted near Glen Rock, Wyoming, about 75 miles away back then. Thanks for any thoughts on this. Kathy Martin. Alright, Kathy, I hope I didn't get in trouble for sharing your name, but yeah, obviously it is what it is. Huge footprints everywhere, and the DNR is instructed to say that no matter what. Alright, so at this point of the game, you cannot trust any fish and wildlife organization anywhere. Any of them. If they're collecting money from the government, they're not going to tell you the truth. Period. It's unfortunate, but that's just the way it is, and that's why we're all here today, right? Because we're being lied to, and information's being kept from us, and we're being misled. Unfortunately. But who needs them, right? We can lead ourselves when it comes to important items like this. But anyway, tell you what, I'm going to sneak down this mountain a little more, hook up to the other end, and see if we can't get to another place around the corner for another view, and maybe even get up a little higher. I want to see what's on the back side of the sucker. I'll definitely be coming back here, and I'm going to hike up to the top of this mountain, get in that big timber, and have a snoop around for sure. Just not today. Okay, be back in a minute. Alright. Final stop on this little adventure, as far as I'm going to go. I didn't quite make it on top of this hill, but I can probably hike up there in half an hour and then go along the whole top ridge and check it all out eventually one day. Haven't seen any elk or deer sign yet, not even any bear sign. I haven't really looked around to the bush yet, it's just on the road. And trust me, when you see no wildlife sign on the road, that doesn't mean anything. I've learned that one through blood, sweat, and tears. But anyway, what do we got here today? Some more puzzle piece. Why they just don't kill us. Hello, Steve. My name is Eduardo Arcanjo. I live in Brazil, and I have my share of weird experiences with spiritual beings, good and bad. The following is valid to all supernatural creatures. They usually cannot wound or kill a healthier and mentally stable human being without suffering backlash from spiritual law. We are protected as underdeveloped beings by angels from higher forms of spiritual predators. Most of the time, they can only grab our attention or project fear and emotions to us. It's mostly a bluff or a soft form of manipulation. They can cause illness over time, though. But there are exceptions. People can be tricked into giving them permission for them to harm them. This can happen with practitioners of occultism or people who have been hypnotized by these beings. For spiritual beings, communication is permission to get closer and further interact. Mental illness and drug abuse makes people more vulnerable to mind control by these beings. This can happen also if the person is in panic and truly believes he can die from the attack. For this reason, a supernatural predator must gain control of a victim by the means of psychological attack, such as the sudden directed dread psychic attacks, the pressure feeling. First, they must control the mind of the victim before they can really harm their bodies. For some weak-willed people, this can be a sudden, one-time dreadful event. Lone women and children are more usually vulnerable to this. Looking them in the eyes makes one more vulnerable to their attacks. Most of the time, this is done by repeat aggressive experiences with these beings. They can use the generated trauma to make the victim actually manifest its own demise at their hands if they wish. This is why most of the attacks are not fatal, even at the hands of overwhelmingly powerful beings, because they don't want or can't go through the process of gaining permission to kill the person. They really need to show themselves and work the victim until it accepts its own death, either by fear or wrong thinking. Another situation that can trigger a deadly attack is actually attempting to kill one of them. They still have the right to defend themselves. Don't try if you are not sure what you're doing. Finally, people whose quality of soul is similar to the predators themselves, that is, they are equally evil, are also fair game to them. The opposite is also true. The more spiritually good a person is, the least vulnerable they are to all kinds of their attacks. Praying to God for protection also greatly prevents their physical attacks. The presence of the Holy Spirit through real faith and devotion also protects and actually repels these beings. I hope this ideas helps you and your readers understand these kind of experiences. Edu. Okay, man. That's definitely going to open up it's definitely going to crack it open for some debate. I'll guarantee you that one. I mean, I'm reading what your words and I appreciate them, but I don't know how you learned that. Where'd you get that knowledge from, and how do you feel absolutely solid that is the way it is? If so, why? There's no shortage of innocent and God-fearing people, good souls, who meet their demise early and in tortured, disgusting, various, vicious, violent ways today. Right? So, I don't understand how a bad spiritual being would not have permission to kill someone, especially if they're of good faith, when there are so many other evil beings out there, specifically human beings, that go and rape and dismember and maim and kill innocent men, women, and children around the globe today. How come they got permission? How come they get away with it? It's confusing, right? It's a confusing topic. Anyways, I'm sure everybody's going to go at it in the comment section below after hearing that one. Thanks for your share, man. I appreciate it. All right? And don't take my words as insulting or challenging. Just take them as what they are, part of a conversation at the round table of knowledge, right? Hi, Steve. Listened to your show for the first time, driving on a fishing trip last weekend for 3 hours, as we had to take 2 trucks. Okay, I read that one. All right, what do we got? Mark this as red. Multiple stories, fair punctuation, to the point. All right, here we go. Steve, been watching your videos for over a year now with my wife. She says I should send you my experiences to add to the collection. Just call me Bill. My full name is at the bottom. Not many secrets here. You can use it if you want to. All dates are approximate, as this is just something that is what it is. Each is a part of a larger story, but these are just the relevant highlights in reference to the Sabe or the Watchers. The world we share is much larger than most realize. The gaps are either periods of time spent nursing a broken back and can barely walk, or in secured communication locations for extended periods. Inverness, Florida. 1981, 11 years old. Playing with two friends on an abandoned mixer rig. A raised cement mixer with a steel lattice platform. I felt myself moving toward the elevated ledge. I was drawn to walk over the edge. It was as if I was looking through my eyes, but not in control of my movement. My leg slipped in a square hole in the lattice about 4 feet before the edge, and a 20-foot drop. Excuse me. I cut a 6-inch long by 1-inch deep gash in the inner side of my left knee. Ouch. I yelled for them to get help, and they ran off to the neighboring school. In shock and rocking back and forth, I heard a voice in my head. It was not my own voice. If you don't move, you're going to die. I climbed down a 20-foot sand hill and then up a 20-foot pile of illegally dumped household appliances and met them halfway as they were returning with help from school. That's bizarre. Inverness, Florida, 1982, alone in the woods. I discovered that blackberries were fruiting. I went home and got a butter tub to collect some. When I reached the bush, there was a scream that sounded like a woman being tortured that I could feel vibrating through my bones. I wasn't scared. I don't know why. I was just startled. I heard a similar voice in my head. I need these more than you. I left the bushes to them. Hernando, Florida, Apache Shores, 1984. 5 of us kids walking the sandy roads at 2 a.m. in the summer. One of the others stops me and says, "There's something behind those bushes." Those bushes were a solid wall of kudzu. I told him I told him that he's just trying to scare us. That is when he picked up a fistful of sand and threw it at the kudzu. Note, 4 feet from where I was standing. Something ran on 2 legs through the kudzu away from us. 4 huge ground-shaking steps and then stopped. Again, I wasn't scared but curious. That is until I realized the others were on a dead run away from this spot. Then, like Forrest Gump, I found myself alone, and that's a bad thing. Hernando, Florida, 1988, alone in my father's trailer. Something slapped the trailer hard enough to rock it, even with the hurricane anchor strapped solidly in the ground. I ran outside ready for a fight. There was nothing there. No sound, no wind blowing, no sound of crickets. German Army training area, Bavaria, 1993, in the middle of a training exercise. On a German Army training ground, something took a couple cases of meals ready to eat, MREs, and ripped a side out of the boxes. Several packages were taken out and discarded, while others were ripped open, and only specific items like coffee and dehydrated fruits were removed from the packages. The individual items were chewed like a wad of tobacco, and the wrapper spit out. We told ourselves it was feral pigs to sleep better. Wow. Anbar Province, Iraq, 2009 midnight, smoking a hookah behind one of the T-walls. It was a typical warm night and no lights were being used. I heard a noise and looked up. A pale, almost luminescent white head slowly peeked around the corner and made eye contact with it. After a moment or two, it looked startled and ran off. About 10 seconds later, a Marine came around to shoot the shit. He didn't see anything. I imagine the Marine is what startled it. Southwest Wyoming, 2018, while treasure hunting after climbing a half-a-mile-high boulder field to get to a snow melt waterfall, I heard a scream. Similar to the woman-type screams years before, but not too harsh. The scream came from above the waterfall. My intuition told me it was time to leave. As I was heading back down through the boulder field, I could sense that I was being stalked. I stayed in the middle of the field for a clear view to every side, roughly 20 yards right and left. When halfway down, directly opposite of the direction of the scream, I heard wolves, barks, and yips. The wolves never showed themselves. I believe they were just curious about the hairless monkey in the area. The wolves did keep whatever made that scream away from me. Sweetwater County, Wyoming, 2019, 3 a.m. My truck is buried in the mud up to the frame. The location is surrounded by the river on 3 sides. My stomach is turning as a lesson learned to not buy truck stop Subway. No doubt. Don't buy truck stop anything. I go to my business in the dark. Once done, I notice something is not right. I slowly shine my flashlight around in a circle, and something huge runs and jumps into the river. It sounded like it ran on 2 legs, not 4. Sweetwater County, Wyoming, 2020. Jade hunting with my daughter and her boyfriend. We fired off a few black powder shots at paper targets on a BLM land, both for practice and to fresh reload. When darkness fell, we started smelling that rotten skunk smell. They thought it was a gas plant, but the plant was about 4 miles away from our campsite. During the day, the wind blows like a hurricane. At night, it's completely calm. I was too lazy to set up a tent, so I grabbed a blanket and sat in my truck seat for the night. I was woken up by a whispering voice in the back passenger window. I thought it was the boyfriend and was thinking to myself, just let me sleep already. He never left the tent all night. This wasn't the same as the first 2 experiences. This was an audible whisper. It was more like an attempt to mimic our speech. I found out later that the area we were camped in is considered by the locals to be the Skinwalker Ranch of Wyoming. The comparison is that everything that happens at Skinwalker Ranch happens in this area. Note, I keep out specific keywords to prevent accidents to others. So it's a huge county, and they told me some stories of what happens there. The rotting skunk smell. I experienced it about every 2 weeks, both in and out of cities. I just say polecat, keep driving. It's what my father used to do, and I picked up on it. The feeling of overwhelming terror I felt twice, both times around people and in civilization. When alone in the woods or high desert, I am at peace. Steve, I believe that in a way, a person is marked in their first encounter. On some level, it opens you up to more strange and unusual experiences. It's like when someone buys a car you've not heard of, and suddenly you see that make a car everywhere. In this instance, one's mind opens up to new experiences, or it may tend to shut down in fear. Since 1981, I haven't been feared much. There are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy. Hamlet. Best regards, Bill. Bill, thanks for that email, man. And, there's a pile of weird stuff that's going on in the Middle East. Actually, I had some information shared to me about the fact the Obama administration, a bunch of others, were instructed to destroy the Middle East a handful of years ago. Why? I don't know why. Be interesting to find out. Side note. But I just had an interesting email just a little while ago. I haven't shared it, but somebody sent me a quick email stating that, let's just say somebody quite close to them came back from the Middle East and they witnessed American forces protecting Chinese as they mined very deep in Afghanistan, and they stayed there and guarded them until they got what they were after and left. Interesting. Seems fairly credible. The sources sent it to me and how they delivered it and who the person was to them. And if anybody knows anything about that, that'd be some interesting information to share coming out of the Middle East, wouldn't it? Afghanistan. I guess is that the Middle East? Afghanistan? Somewhere over there. Anyway, there's a lot of crazy shit going on over there, man. It sounds like you've had a fair amount of stuff happen to you. I think you're correct. I think a lot of people are correct. A lot of people keep emailing the same statement that we're tagged in a way after our first experience, because there's no shortage of shit that happens to me and many other people, and I don't look for it. But I don't look for it, but I do offer up my ass basically. Everywhere I go is where there's experiences when I'm remote like this, or even at home, and I go down to the river, and I don't know how many hundreds of you seen that whatever it was got tossed at me out of the bush there and hit the quad. Do I know what it was? Nope. Was anybody there? No. Does it scare me? No. It is what it is. I'm just not into it. If it's a game somebody or something I'm not familiar wants to play, I'm not into it. You can play your game, but I'm out. I'll sit on the sidelines. If you want to carry on behind me, go ahead. I don't give a shit. But I'm not gonna leave. Anyway, thanks for all those experiences, man. Keep sharing more. All right, you got more, you share more. Okay. If you got knowledge, it can help the people where they are. All right. Speak of the devil. Sounds like something just landed over there. Whatever. A friend of mine received a frantic voicemail years ago. They're in the trees. Yes, they do venture elsewhere, but they live in the trees, which means more than you think for certain kinds, and trees grow where there's water. One kind is worldwide, where there are trees. Others are more intercontinentally limited. By the by, they are refusing the transfer of goods at our ports due to vaccination demands. This will shut down our economy, and it's on purpose. It's criminal, being a form of coercion. Meanwhile, here in the States, money is being promised to school systems that enforce mask mandates, a form of bribery. Okay, a whole nother topic that I'm getting ready to tackle on the Rumble channel fairly quick, just because it needs to be addressed. There's a lot of very, very disgusting, nasty things going on and being imposed on humanity today. And that's got nothing to do with a stance on a virus or a mandatory vaccination. That's got a very, very firm stance on what is going down globally today. And it's much bigger, without a doubt. If you can't see it, that's unfortunate. We'll talk about it on another channel. What else do we got? A fear blast. All right, here we go. What do we got? Steve, you can use my name and location if you wish. I'm retired and I've never seen a BF. I have had severe impressions of being potential prey by something unknown. The fear was intense. Tom Brown, tracker, has always advised trusting your instincts. He is of the opinion our subconscious picks up stimuli we're not consciously focused on and warns us with fear. With my undergraduate behavioral psychology degree, that makes a lot of sense. Fact-based, not otherwise. He also observed that animals sense our spirit. He lives a role as caretaker of the forest. That loving orientation has helped him many, many times. Anyway, my first experience was in a very unlikely spot. We live in a smallish town between Chicago and Wisconsin. Not too far from us is a park made specifically for disc frisbee. It's sort of a mini golf course with the hole being a raised basket. A fair using small chain links to capture the frisbee. One keeps score like golf. The layout involves a large overgrown field with mowed fairways, and along its west edge is a tree line maybe 10 to 20 yards wide. Continuing west is a sort of a ditch, mini slough, and then farmland. One leg of the disc course enters that tree line and moves north. One day I was enjoying myself there, solo, and worked my way into the woods section at the southwest corner of the playing field. Then it happened. I knew without a doubt that something deadly was eyeing me from the slough/ditch area. At first felt angry and challenged to confront it, but the fear was intense, and obviously in a public park I was not weaponized. No longer so. I began to talk aloud in a normal pattern with a non-existent disc thrower and walked at normal speed north away from the danger spot. After I got back into the meadow grass, the fear went away. To this day, I don't know what it was. That's spooky, isn't it? Later on, 1 to 2 years, around 10 miles to the east, I spotted a mountain lion in the wee AM hours laying next to the roadside waiting for me to pass so it could move into cover on the other side of the road. Bringing it up to some forest preserve workers, they said a cougar had been hit to the west of Chicago while crossing a freeway, and another one had been cornered in Chicago and killed. I don't know if that's what I experienced, cougar or wolf, or even a feral-minded human survivalist type. I do trust my instincts. I had the same thing happen in Iowa around Bradgate, while walking along an old R&R bed where my aunt and uncle used to farm. Again, the area was wooded, and a partial slough lay to one side of the tracks. Here I was, in clear sight of the farmhouse, but my response was the same, even though I was doing concealed carry. Note, around the same time while serving as a BSA merit badge counselor, I became acquainted with a leader from a different troop who worked for the forest preserve and pointed out to him that our park system now links trails way north into Wisconsin and beyond. With the protected deer environment, it is a natural corridor for upper-level predators. Since that time, our local parks are undergoing a severe elimination of brush, non-indigenous species like buckthorn, and most of the cover 2- or 4-legged predators might use. Well, that's it. If you have a date, Gray. Oh my God, I'm reading sentences backwards. You know I'm getting tired when. Didn't eat enough today. Well, that's it. Hope you have a great day, Mike Cooksey. Mike, thanks for that, man. What does it say here? Back, hold on. I knew without a doubt something deadly was eyeing me from the slough. Deadly. That's weird to know that. I've had, I can't say I've had the same. I mean, I've had encounters with every predator you can think of in North America, right? But the only time, and I mentioned it before in my past, I got dropped off on top of a mountain like this in deep snow, headed into big timber, and then I was going to spend the whole day going down the side of that big timbered mountain in the snow. And that's actually, coincidentally, near Blue River, British Columbia, where a pile of people have emailed in experiences, right? Anyway, I'm going down. There's a bunch of blowdowns, and then I got in this little gully. The only gully's only about 15 yards across. A little drop gully, then up over another little timbered ridge, and then continue down the mountain. So I got stuck in the bottom, up to snow up to here, crisscrossed blowdowns in it. It's just hell getting through it. And then all of a sudden, every hair on the back of my neck was standing on end to the point I was like, holy shit. And I'm looking up behind me straight up, and I'm basically yelling out, F off, leave me alone. Whatever it was. But it didn't feel deadly to me. It just felt like something staring at me, man. Oh, right? But it didn't, I can't say it felt deadly. So that part that you mentioned, you could tell something deadly was there. That's an eye raiser. That's an eyeball opener, right? Oh, and then I went back the next day to the same hike, and it was actually a pack of wolves. You can see where they're pacing back and forth on the rim, straight above me, looking down at me. So it was a pack of wolves that were staring at me, but I didn't feel threatened by them. I didn't feel anything deadly was up there, although wolves can be quite deadly, right? Interesting share, man. Interesting share. All right, what do we got here? Yosemite, close call. Howdy, Steve. Use my full name, Martin Wegman. It's either Wedgman or Wegman. I'm watching this and I'm amazed and ask myself if this shit is real. I don't have an encounter, just a pee break running through California back in 2009. Me and my girl went traveling through California when we visit Yosemite National Park. We run through the whole country We run through the whole country so far, and we didn't stay there either, just a drive through the national park. When we left, I had to pee. It was a nice place to park. Steep, but I felt safe, so I parked there. I took a couple of steps to pee when suddenly I felt it. I cut my stream off, I shivered and got back in the car. It's maybe nothing, but damn, I've never felt that vulnerable. I'm from Switzerland, Zurich, so there is no such thing like Sasquatch in our heads. I visited Vancouver 2 years later, and I've seen the elks and the goats and the bears to the journey to Banff. Thank you so much for doing this. I really try to convert this knowledge and news without sounding like a person who got a definitive experience. I'm on the can turn back scale, but I'm Asperger. There is no turning back. Much love, You keep me watching YouTube. Hope you settled down well on the island. Martin, Wegman, Zurich, Switzerland. All right, that was short to the point, Martin. And what I'm thinking you're trying to get across to everybody is you had a feeling of possibly dread and absolute uncomfort, right? Otherwise, why would you even mail into us? All right, let's keep going. New info. All right, new info. Dear Steve, I have a bit of new info to share. Recap. I had my first encounter in 1994 on the early morning drive in the Chinook Pass area, where it stood in the middle of the road and looked at me. The next encounter was here in 2018, where a rust-haired teen stood at my woodside and yelled at me for 10 minutes. I got scared and angry and yelled back, LOL. I know we were saying the same thing. This is private property. The next encounter was when a really big guy walked out of the wood line, leaned on my Suburban, and went invisible. He never moved, just looked at me and went all watery, see-through. The dog and I have had several encounters in our woods, loads of tree knocks, many pieces of wood on the trails shaped into Norse ruins, and shaped in the ancient witch signs. This family group always felt kind, and I was never afraid of them. Normally, every August, I have some kind of close encounter. This August was empty. We've just started getting odd whistles. They are so loud. The whistles are long, short, short, short. The long whistle is so damn loud it seems to go through you. The short ones are more quiet. I thought it was a new bird in the area until I started yelling at them. Hey, you are Sabe. Just did this while I was outside tonight. They moved off and I can hear them farther away from me. My dog has started stopping me on our walks and not letting me walk in different parts of the trails. Some days she refuses to go in the woods at all. Normally she ignores the Sabe. She never acknowledges them at all. She does bark at deer and coyotes all the time. She has growled at the new ones a few times, but mostly ignores them. Odd, right? I watch every day and have not heard anyone speak of these new sounds. I think this is a new group that has moved into the area. They don't feel safe to me. My dog has never kept me out of the woods before. I'm in the Pacific Northwest. Shout out to the coffee crowd. Stay safe, y'all. Thanks for everything. Steve. Sincerely, Susan. All right, Susan. Stay safe, right? Stay safe out there. You got everything some substantial information that the people can benefit by. Send it. Send it to us. All right, one more and that's it. Hello, my name is titled, read my story. Hello, my name is Steve B. I live in an urban area 100 meters from a river. Very well wooded. Naturalized parks and such. One midsummer's night, 1 a.m., while enjoying the evening on my front porch with a neighbor, I decided to go to the river with my dog and neighbor. My neighbor was hesitant, while warning me that he had never been in the woods at night. I replied, no worries. We have Molly dog. She's a good hunter with us. So I take us down to the river's edge. It is clean with very little underbrush, so it's easy to travel. I have an LED flashlight that has a broad lighting angle. It is very dark along the river. At about 250 meters along the riverbank, my dog goes on high alert. Aggressive. Near a fallen old-growth tree. She is about 30 meters in front of me, and the neighbor is just off my left shoulder. I said, shit. Dog has something already. I maneuvered behind twin trees that has a perfect 15-inch viewing between them. Neighbor goes into panic. In my haste and trying to adjust the flashlight to another setting, I turned it off by mistake. So the dog is aggressive crazy, neighbor is spouting gibberish, and I'm fumbling with the flashlight. Next thing I know is neighbor has a death grip on my shoulder, yelling that there is something on his leg. Okay, I get the flashlight on to see pure terror on his face, still speaking gibberish, and I look down to see Molly dog, wet beard and all, standing near his leg with the biggest shit-eating grin. He ran out of the woods. That's it. No Sabe. Just a wet dog who knows how to hunt. And a city man who might have, or not, pissed himself. Okay. All right, thanks for that email. And on that note, I gotta go. That was a lot of reading today, man. Holy shit. And side note, what was brought up a week ago was our First Nations friend mentioned he was going to go meet up with the logger who felled the big huge cedar with the hollow center and found the enormous skeletal remains of a human-like being in it. And I'm really looking forward to that follow-up. I know you're probably watching. And I said I'm going to hook up with you guys near Mackenzie on the way up, and I should still be able to do that in November. But if you have hooked up with those guys and followed up on inquiring about what went on with that, email it back, man, so I get this information out to the people, because they want to hear that story and what happened. Okay, I gotta go. Talk to you guys later.